Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
In December of 1938, three German scientists, Otto Hahn, Lisa Meitner, and Fritz Strassmann, discovered nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is when the nucleus of an atom separates into two or more nuclei, basically a nucleus split in half, releasing a large burst of energy. Trillions of these bursts were needed to make a powerful bomb. This can happen when a neutron hits an atom at a high speed, causing it to split into two or more pieces. Think about it like cars crashing at high speeds. They will explode due to the momentum.
In 1938, just a few months later, the Nazi Party rose to power and things started going downhill very quickly. They took over the Czech Republic and started World War II. In World War II, after the German occupation of Poland, Einstein found out that the Germans were on the path to building an immensely powerful bomb. He thought that the bomb should not be in the Germans' hands. This thought sparked his 1939 letter to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, current U.S. president at the time. This encouraged the president to start the construction of the bomb.
Things were really getting out of hand with the war. In April 1940, Germans quickly seized Norway, and in May they occupied Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. With the help of the Luftwaffe, German Air Force, tanks, and artillery, German troops blasted through France. By the end of June, the French army was decimated, and the Germans controlled much of Western Europe. Due to these decisive victories, many scientists believe that the United States had to enter the war.
Because of this, in June of 1940, the National Defense Research Committee, or NDRC, was created in order to prepare America from a weapons standpoint. It consisted of some of the best scientists and other professionals in all of America. The NDRC was the committee that started the Manhattan Project itself.
Without the proper materials, making the bomb would have been nearly impossible. A very important part of creating the atomic bomb, plutonium was first detected in 1941 by American chemists Glenn T. Seaborg, Joseph W. Kennedy, Edwin McMillan, and Arthur Wall. The element was first synthetically produced and isolated in late 1940 and early 1941. A uranium-fueled reactor was used to manufacture plutonium, which was the second step toward building an atomic weapon. Reports have been prepared, and there were plans for a bomb. Now America just needed a trigger to push them to actually build it.
On December 7th of the same year, they had gotten a trigger, a major one. The Japanese army launched a surprise aerial attack on the U.S. military base in Hawaii. They engaged in a tactic known as kamikaze, flying their planes into ships. Although there was not much planning, the attack was very successful. There were 2,400 casualties, and 21 ships were sunk or damaged. This event is commonly known as Pearl Harbor. The day after, the U.S. was at war with Japan in an official part of World War II. America needed the bombs, and fast, so on the 17th of September 1942, U.S. Army Colonel Leslie Richard Groves was appointed head of the Manhattan Project. He really sped things up and made a lot of progress. For example, just the day after he was appointed head, he gathered 1,250 tons of uranium mined from Africa.
At this point, a research and testing facility was needed, as the Americans got closer and closer to finally completing the atom bomb. Because of this, Los Alamos Ranch School, an all-boys school operated by Ashley Pond, was approved for purchase by the War Department on November 25, 1942. There were a multitude of reasons that this very site was chosen. First of all, the school was sufficiently spacious, both for housing and for scientific research and testing. It also had a panoramic view, something that Oppenheimer so desired. At Los Alamos, they conducted the Trinity test, which was the first nuclear weapon test in the world. This test, which took place in Los Alamos, was conducted with the purpose of marking the start of the atomic age. The success of the Trinity test meant that the U.S. military could not only make a successful atomic bomb, but they could use it against the Axis powers.
Work on the atom bomb was really speeding up at this point in the war. The CP-1, or Chicago Pile-1, was the world's first ever nuclear reactor and was assembled by Enrico Fermi and his colleagues on December 2, 1942, underneath the University of Chicago's football field. This was a major leap forward in the race to create the atomic bomb. This ingenious creation actually worked quite simply. It relied on the one relatively basic concept that cadmium can slow the movement of neutrons. The composition of this device was also quite simple. It consisted of graphite bricks, some of which were contaminated with uranium. The structure was laced by wooden rods coated in cadmium. When Fermi and his team systematically removed the wooden rods, the uranium inside some of the bricks was triggered to split. Though little energy was released, no more than enough to light up a small light bulb, this project paved the way for the atom bomb to be made by proving that nuclear fission was possible and by showing how to trigger it.
2 years passed, and the work on the war in Los Alamos dragged on. The D-Day operation of June 6, 1944 brought together the land, air, and sea forces of the Allied armies in what became known as the largest amphibious invasion in military history. The invasion force included over 7,000 ships and landing craft manned by over 195,000 naval personnel from 8 Allied countries. Almost 133,000 troops from the United States, the British Commonwealth, and their allies landed on D-Day. Casualties from these countries during the landing numbered 10,300. By June 30th, over 850,000 men, 148,000 vehicles, and 570,000 tons of supplies had landed on the Normandy shores. Fighting by the brave soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied forces' Western Front, the Russian forces on the Eastern Front led to the defeat of German Nazi forces, and all of a sudden, the tables had turned in the Allied forces' favor.
Almost a year later, with the death of Adolf Hitler on April 30th, 1945, Germany had no other recourse but to surrender, which took place on May 7th. 4 countries assumed administrative control of Germany: the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and France. But just because Germany had surrendered didn't mean that the war was over. Japan was yet to follow. By the time the atomic bomb was created, Germany had surrendered, but Japan was still fighting in the Pacific. The idea was that more lives would be lost if the bombs weren't dropped. The Little Boy and Fat Man bombs, pivotal creations within the vast scope of the Manhattan Project during World War II, represented groundbreaking achievements in nuclear weaponry, with Little Boy a uranium gun-type bomb and Fat Man a plutonium implosion-type bomb. Due to this philosophy, though, on August 6th through 9th, 1945, 355,000 lives were lost to nuclear weapons in the 2 cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. People were vaporized, incinerated, killed by radioactive poison. Blast shadows were left on walls that people were originally covering, and in a matter of seconds, the bomb leveled the cities. On September 2nd, 1945, Japan surrendered. However, the destruction inflicted by these nuclear weapons not only marked a transformative moment in history, but also ignited complex ethical discussions surrounding their use, leaving an enduring impact on global perspectives on nuclear arms and disarmament. After World War II, the United States Atomic Energy Commission was an agency established by the Congress to control the peacetime development of atomic technology. The effects of the nuclear bombs are still affecting the Japanese community today. Trauma, cancer, radioactive poisoning, birth defects, and more will take generations to overcome. Many members of the Los Alamos crew deeply regret their decision of creating such a powerful weapon. Oppenheimer himself devoted the rest of his life to controlling the monster he had created.